DVB-H, DVB-SH, it's a digital video broadcasting for handhelds. We are going to see the introduction, convergence between mobile radio and broadcasting, essential parameters of DVB-H, DSM-CC sections, multi-protocol encapsulation, DVB-H standard, and the summary of this section. And we will extend the DVB-H to DVB-SH. So we are going to see about all these eight parts, 8 sessions in this video. DVB-H, DVB-SH, that's a digital video broadcasting for handhelds. It's a handheld devices. So let's see the introduction part. The introduction of 2G GSM, second generation global system for mobile communication, has triggered quite a boom for this wireless type of communication. If the possession of car telephones or similar mobile type telephones was the prerogative of mostly special circles of people at the beginning of the 90s, at least every second person had his own personal mobile telephone by the end of the 90s, and in most cases it was used only either for telephoning or for sending and receiving short messages, SMS, until then. By then, however, people also wanted to be able to send and receive data via a mobile telephone, for example from a PC. To be able to check one's email database was initially a pleasant way of keeping oneself up to date, especially in the professional field. Today, this is a standard usage. In the GSM standard, developed mainly for mobile telephony, however, the data rates are about 9.6 kilobits per second. This is quite adequate for simple text emails without attachments, but it becomes rather troublesome when long files are attached to the original message. It can also be used for surfing the internet, but is a cumbersome and expensive way of doing this. With the introduction of 2.5G mobile telephony, the GPRS, that is a General Packet Radio System, the GPRS, the data rate was increased to 171.2 kilobits per second by forming packets, that is combining time slots of the GSM system. It was only with the third generation, the UMTS, the Universal Mobile Telecommunication System, that the data rate could be increased to 144 to 384 kilobits per second and 2 megabits per second respectively, which however greatly depends on the respective conditions of reception and coverage. Using higher level modulation, that is 8 PSK, the edge, that is enhanced data rates for GSM evolution standard, allows higher data rates of up to 345.6 kilobits per second, that is called ECSD, and 473.6 kilobits per second, that is EGPRS. Due to their nature, all mobile radio standards are designed for bidirectional communication between the terminal and the base station. The modulation methods such as example GMSK, that is Gaussian minimum shift keying in GSM, or WCDMA, that is wideband code division multiple access in UMTS, have been designed for those rough receiving conditions in mobile reception. Today, mobile telephones are no longer mere telephones, but that can be used as cameras or as game consoles or organizers, evolving more and more to become multimedia terminals. Equipment manufacturers and network operators are continuously searching for more new applications. In parallel with the evolution of mobile radio, the transition of analog television to digital television took place. If at the end of the 80s, it still appeared to be impossible to be able to send moving pictures digitally via existing transmission paths such as satellite, cable TV, or the old-fashioned terrestrial way. This is an accepted fact today. It is made possible by modern compression methods such as MPEG, Moving Pictures Experts Group, and modern modulation methods and matching error protection, that is FEC, forward error correction method. A key event in this area can be considered to be the first use of the so-called DCT in JPEG. DCT is discrete cosine transform. JPEG is Joint Photographic Experts Group standard. JPEG is a method for compressing still pictures used in digital cameras. At the beginning of the 90s, experience gained with the DCT was also applied to the compression of moving pictures in the MPEG standard. First, the MPEG-1 standard developed for CD data rates and applications was produced. With the MPEG-2, it became possible to compress standard definition TV, SDTV, moving pictures from originally 270 megabits per second to less than 5 megabits per second. The data rate of the associated lip-synced synchronized audio channel being in most cases 200 to 400 kilobits per second. Now even HDTV, high definition TV signals could now be reduced to tolerable data rates of about 15 megabits per second. Knowledge of anatomy of the human eye made it possible to perform a so-called irrelevance reduction in combination with the redundancy reduction. Signal components, information not perceived by the eye and ear are removed from the signal before transmission. The compression methods have been refined further in MPEG-4, H.264, which is MPEG-4 Part 10 AVC, Advanced Video Coding. And today, even lower data rates are possible with better picture and good quality, sound quality. During the development of DVB, 3 different transmission methods were developed. One is a DVB-S satellite, second one is DVB-C cable, and third one is DVB-T terrestrial. In DVB-T, digital television is broadcast terrestrially in 6 or 7 or 8 megahertz wide radio channels in a gapped frequency band of about 47 megahertz to 862 megahertz at net data rate of either approximately 15 megabits per second or 22 megabits per second. In some countries such as the UK, Sweden or Australia, the DVB-T is designed for pure roof aerial reception and the possible data rate is correspondingly high at about 22 megabits per second. Countries like Germany have selected the portable indoor option, providing the possibility of receiving more than 20 programs free to air FTA via an indoor antenna, that is a passive or active indoor antenna. Due to the higher degree of error protection FEC required and the more rugged modulation method, that is 16 QAM instead of 64 QAM. Due to these two, only lower data rates such as about 15 megabits per second are possible. In DVB-T, you have seen that. If DVB-T is operated as a network which can be received by portable receivers, the data rates are about 15 megabits per second, and correspondingly only about 4 programs or services can be accommodated in a DVB-T channel. This is still 4 times as many as could previously be received in a comparable analog TV channel. The data rates available per program are therefore 2.5 to 3.5 megabits per second, present as variable data rates in a so-called statistical multiplex in most cases. So this is an introduction. So in the next session, we will see about convergence between mobile radio and broadcasting. Convergence between mobile radio and broadcasting. Mobile radio networks are networks in which the bidirectional, that is point-to-point connections are possible at relatively low data rates. Modulation methods, error protection, and handover procedures are correspondingly adapted to the mobile environment. So billing are also found to be system related in the standard. The type of services to be selected, be it a telephone call, an SMS, or a data link, is determined by the end user and he is billed accordingly. Broadcasting networks are unidirectional networks in which contents are distributed point to multi-point jointly to a large number of parties at relatively high data rates. On-demand contents are relatively rare, a predetermined content being distributed to many parties from one transmitter site, or nowadays also by single frequency networks over a number of transmitters. This content is usually a radio or television program. The data rate are much higher than in mobile radio networks. Modulation methods and error protections are often designed only for portable or roof antenna reception. Mobile reception is provided for only as part of DAB, digital audio broadcasting in the standard. The DVB-T has been developed only for stationary or a portable reception. As part of DVB-H, that is digital video broadcasting for handheld mobile terminals, attempts are now being made to merge the mobile radio world with that of broadcasting. Look at figure number 22.1. The broadcasting, I said, no, merge the mobile radio world with that of broadcasting and to combine the advantage of both network systems, combining the bidirectionality of the mobile radio networks at relatively low data rates with the unidirectionality of broadcast networks at relatively higher data rates. So this is a difference. Now, one is a unidirectionality with a higher data rate. This one is advantages combining the bidirectionality of mobile at relatively low data rate and combining the unidirectionality of broadcast networks at relatively high data rates. If the same services such as certain video and audio services on demand are demanded by many subscribers, so what happens? The data service is mapped from the mobile radio network onto the point to multi-point broadcast rail, depending on the demand and on the amount of information involved. The type of information diverted from the mobile radio network to the broadcasting network depends only on the current requirements. It is currently still undecided what services will be offered to the mobile telephones in future over the DVB-H service. They can be purely IP based services or also video audio over IP. In every case, however, DVB-H will be a UDP or IP based service in connection with the MPEG DVB-T or H. So conceivable applications are current sport programs, news and other services which could be of interest to the public using mobile telephones. It is certain that given the right condition of reception, a DVB-H enabled mobile will also be able to receive pure non-chargeable DVB-T transmissions. Next session we will see about essential parameters of DVB-H. The essential parameters of DVB-H. What are those? The essential parameters of DVB-H correspond to those of the DVB-T standard. The physical layer of the DVB-T has been expanded only slightly in addition to the 8K and 2K mode already present in DVB-T. The 4K mode was introduced as a good compromise between the two, allowing SFN, that is single frequency networks of reasonable size, to be formed while at the same time being more suitable for mobile use. The 8K mode is not very suitable for mobile use because of its small subcarrier spacing, and the 2K mode allows for only short distances of about 20 km between transmitters. The 8K mode requires more memory space for data interleaving and deinterleaving than do the 4K and 2K modes. Space is becoming available in 4K and 2K mode can now be used for deeper interleaving in DVB-H. That is, the deinterleaver can be selected between native and in-depth in 4K and 2K mode. For signaling additional parameters, DPS, that is transmission parameter signaling bits, reserved or already used, otherwise are used in DVB-H. The parameters additionally developed in DVB-H are listed in the DVB-T standard as a separate appendix actually. All other changes are extensions related to MPEG-2 TS, MPEG-2 transport stream, are given in the same standard. These in turn can be found in the DVB data broadcast standard. See, the DVB-T standard is ETS 300744. Okay. DVB data broadcast standard, DVB DBS, it is ETS 301192 standard. The MPEG-2 transport stream as a DVB baseband signal is an input signal for a DVB-H modulator. In DVB-H, multi-protocol encapsulation, that is MPE, already defined in the context of DVB data broadcasting before DVB-H. This is used as a time slicing method so that energy can be saved in the mobile part. Both length and spacing of time slots must be signaled. The IP packets packaged in MPE time slots can be optionally provided with the additional FEC in DVB-H. This is a Reed-Solomon error protection at IP packet level. Everything else corresponds directly to the DVB-T or MPEG-2 respectively. DVB-H is a method for time slot IP packet transmission over an MPEG-2 transport stream. The physical layer used is DVB-T with some extensions. Its aim is the convergence between a mobile radio network and a DVB-H broadcast network. Data services are transmitted to the mobile either via mobile radio network or via the DVB-H network depending on the traffic volume. Next session we will see about DSM-CC sections. DSM-CC sections we'll discuss about it. In the MPEG-2 standard ISO IEC 13818 part 6, in this standard, mechanisms for transmitting data and data services and directory structures were created early on. These are the so-called DSM-CC sections, where DSM-CC stands for Digital Storage Media Command and Control. In principle, DSM-CC sections have a comparable structures to the PSI or SI tables. They begin with the table ID, which is always within a range of from hexadecimal 3A to hexadecimal 3E. Look at figure number 2. Okay. DSM CC sections have a length of up to 4 kilobytes and are also divided into transport stream packets and broadcast multiplexed into a transport stream. Using object carousels, that is cyclically repeated broadcasting of data, entire directory trees with different file scan can be transmitted. These are all transmitted to the DVB receiver via DSM CC sections. This is done, for example, in MHP Multimedia Home Platform, where HTML and Java files are transmitted, which can then be executed in the MHP enabled DVB receiver. But DSM CC sections with a table ID hexadecimal 3E, if you look at figure number 2, can be used for transmitting IP packets, internet packets in the MPEG-2 transport stream. In an IP packet, a TCP packet, that is a transport control protocol packet, or a UDP packet, that is user datagram protocol packet, is either of these two is transmitted. Either TCP packet or UDP packet is transmitted. TCP packets carry out a controlled transmission between transmitter and receiver via a handshake procedure. But in contrast, UDP packets are sent out without any return message. Since in most cases there is no return channel in the broadcast operation, hence the term is called broadcasting, right? The TCP packets do not make any sense. For this reason, only UDP protocols are used in the DVB during the IP transmission in the so-called multi-protocol encapsulation MPE. Although there is a return channel in DVB-H via mobile radio network, an IP packet cannot be newly requested since the messages must go simultaneously to many addresses in DVB-H. So what is that multi-protocol encapsulation? Let's see that in the next session. Multi-protocol encapsulation is discussed now. In DVB MPE, that is multi-protocol encapsulation, content such as, for example, in HTML files or even MPEG-4 video and audio streams are transported in UDP packets. UDP is user datagram protocol packets. The Windows Media 9 applications can also be transmitted by this means and can also be reproduced in devices equipped accordingly. The UDP packets, look at figure number 3. The UDP packets contain the port address of the destination, that is DST port. Figure number 3. This is a 16-bit wide numerical value via which the destination application is addressed. For example, World Wide Web, that is www, always communicates via port number 80 hexadecimal. Ports are blocked and controlled by a firewall. The UDP packets in turn are then embedded into the payload part of IP packets. The header of the IP packet then contains the source and destination, that is SRC and DST IP address, via which an IP packet is looped through the network from transmitter to receiver in controlled fashion. If the IP packets are transmitted via normal computer network, they are mostly transported in Ethernet packets. The header of the Ethernet packets again contains the hardware addresses of the network components communicating with one another. That is called MAC, Media Access Command Addresses. When the IP packets are transmitted via DVB networks, the Ethernet layer is replaced by the MPEG-2 transport stream and the physical DVB layer, DVB-C or DVB-S or DVB-T. The IP packets are first packaged in DSM-CC sections, which are divided into many transport stream packets in turn. This is called multi-protocol encapsulation. That is UDP divided into IP, IP into DSM-CC, DSM-CC into TS packets. The header of the DSM-CC sections contain the destination MAC address. It has a length of 6 bytes as in the Ethernet layer. There is no source MAC address. Okay. So let us see about DVB-H standard in the next session. Let us discuss about DVB-H standard. DVB-H stands for Digital Video Broadcasting for handheld mobile terminals, and it is an attempt at convergence between mobile radio networks and broadcasting networks. The downstream from the mobile radio networks is remapped onto a broadcasting networks in dependence on the traffic volume. What are the mobile radio networks? GSM, GPRS, UMTS, these are all mobile radio networks. So the downstream from the mobile radio networks is remapped onto the broadcasting network. For example, if only a single subscriber, only one person, only single subscriber requests a service via UMTS from a mobile, for example, this downstream continues to pass via UMTS. But if a large number of subscribers request the same service at approximately the same time, then it makes sense to offer the service. That is, for example, a video, a point to multi-point via the broadcast network. The services intended to be implemented via DVB-H are all IP based. IP. DVB-H is intended to provide the framework for a modified DVB-T network to broadcast IP services in time slots in a MPEG-2 transport stream. The physical modulation parameters are very similar or almost identical to those of a DVB-T network. The MPEG-2 transport stream requires greater modification. A system overview of DVB-H is provided in ETSI document. The number is TM2939. The relevant details are described in two standards. One is a DVB data broadcasting standard and another one is DVB-T standard. So DVB data broadcasting standard is ETS 301192 and the DVB-T standard is ETS 300744. The physical layer DVB-T has been modified or influenced very least. In addition to the 8K mode, especially well suited to single frequency networks, and 2K mode, which are more suitable for mobile reception. In addition to 8K mode and 2K mode, the 4K mode was introduced additionally as optional compromise. Using the 4K mode, twice the transmitter spacing can be achieved compared with the 2K mode, and the mobile capability is distinctly improved compared with the 8K mode. Memory capacity is becoming available in the interleaver and de-interleaver should provide for in-depth interleaving, which in turn would make DVB-H more resistant to burst errors. What are those burst errors? Multi-bit errors, and the data stream is distributed better over time. Some other additional parameters must also be signaled via TPS carriers in DVB-H. TPS carriers. So what is TPS? Transmission parameter signaling. So look at figure number 5. What are those parameters? Time slicing on and off in the MPEG-2 transport stream. Time slicing. Then IP FEC on and off. FEC is forward error correction. IP is internet protocol, right? IP FEC on and off. In-depth interleaving on and off. And 4K mode. So for this purpose, two additional bits from the reserved TPS bits, that is 42 and 43, the bits already used are used. The details, you will look at the details in figure number 5. Okay.
Using the 4K mode and in-depth interleaving in the 4K and 2K mode allows a better RF performance to be achieved in the mobile channel. At the same time, the achievable transmitter spacing in 4K mode is greater by a factor of 2 compared to the 2K mode. Now, for example, I gave on approximately 35 kilometers is covered in 4K mode, but 2K mode will cover only 17 kilometers. It is double, right? So transmitter spacing is greater by a factor of 2 when we compare with the 2K. This is in a single frequency network. Apart from 8 or 7 or 6 megahertz channel known from DVB-T, bandwidth of 5 megahertz L band USA, okay, that can be selected now in DVB-H. The other modifications are found in the structure of MPEG-2 transport stream. Other modifications. In the DVB-H, IP transmission is achieved via the MPEG-2 transport stream by means of multi-protocol encapsulations, which we have discussed already. Compared with the conventional multi-protocol encapsulations, however, there are some special features in DVB-H. The IP packets can be protected with an additional Reed-Solomon FEC. To understand that, you see figure number 7. See figure number 7. So the IP packets can be protected with the additional Reed-Solomon FEC. The Reed-Solomon FEC of an IP datagram is transmitted in its own MPE FEC sections. These sections have the value of 78 as a table ID. Now, you want to see that? Okay, then figure number 8. Look at figure number 8. Refer figure number 8, okay? These sections have a value of 78 as a table ID. The header of these FEC sections has the same structure as that of a MPE sections. Due to the separate transmission of the FEC, a receiver is capable to retrieve the IP packet even without FEC evaluation if there are no errors. Furthermore, the IP information to be transmitted is combined into time slots in the MPEG-2 transport stream. In the time slots, the time delta t until the beginning of the next time slot is signaled in the DSM-CC header. After receiving a time slot, the mobile telephone can then go to sleep mode again until shortly before the next time slot in order to save battery power. On average, the data rate in the time slots will be up to about 400 kilobits per second, depending on application. This is IP information requested simultaneously by many users. To signal the time delta t until the next time slot, 4 of the total of 6 bytes provided for the destination MAC address in the DSM-CC header that are used. The end of the time slot is signaled via the frame boundary and table boundary bit in the MPE and FEC sections. For figure number 8. See the figure number 8, okay? The mobile receiver is notified about where an IP service can be found by means of a new SI table. What is that? The IP MAC notification table, INT, in the MPEG-2 transport stream. The time slot parameters are also transmitted there. Instead of the least significant 4 MAC address bytes, the MPE section in DVB-H contains the time slot parameters, the time delta t until the beginning of a new time slot in 10 millisecond steps, and the 2 table boundary and frame boundary bits. Table boundary marks the last section within a time slice, and frame boundary marks the real end of the time slice, especially when the MPE FEC sections are used. Look at figure number 8 always, okay? Refer that. So in the next session, we will see the summary of DVB-H. DVB-H represents a convergence between GSM UMTS with the DVB. So digital video broadcasting is a DVB and the mobile technology is GSM. So it's a convergence between GSM UMTS and DVB. That is called DVB-H. The GSM UMTS mobile radio network is used as a interactive channel via which high rate services such as video streaming using in 264 H.264 or MPEG-4 Part 10 AVC, audio video advanced video coding, and Windows Media 9. So video streaming are requested, which are then transmitted either via the mobile radio network UMTS or that are remapped onto DVB-H network. In DVB-H network, a DVB-T network is virtually used physically with some modifications of the DVB-T standard. As part of DVB-H, additional operating modes were introduced. The 4K mode as a good compromise between the 2K and 8K mode with the 3409 carriers now used. In-depth interleaving is possible in the 4K and 8K, in the 4K and 2K modes. In-depth interleaving is possible in the 4K and 2K modes. Two new TPS bits for additional signaling and additional signaling via TPS bits which are already used. Time slicing to save power. IP packets with the FEC protection. Introduction of 5 MHz channel. These are the 6 points that we have seen. In the MPEG-2 transport stream, MPE multi-protocol encapsulation is applied in the time slicing method. The IP packets to be transmitted can be protected by an additional Reed-Solomon FEC code. The end user terminal is notified via a new DVB SI table about where it can find the IP service. So at the end of 2003, this book has been written long back. The first prototype of DVB-H enabled terminal was presented, which has a DVB-H receiver integrated in a modified battery pack. So let us see about DVB-SH in the next session. DVB-SH. DVB-SH stands for Mobile TV via Satellite and Terrestrial Paths and is ultimately a virtual combination of DVB-H and DVB-S2 with altered technical parameters. The terrestrial broadcasting is intended for population centers and satellite coverage in the S-band is for rural areas. S-band is 21270 gigahertz to 2200 gigahertz. It is S-band is for the rural areas. This MSS, that is Mobile Satellite Services band, is next to the UMTS band. Terrestrial broadcasting uses the COFDM multi-carrier technology known from DVB-T or H, and in the UHF band, and the satellite link uses a single carrier modulation method in the near gigahertz range where mobile GPS is also working very well. Satellite reception is more difficult in the population centers because of the buildings, but terrestrial coverage from the TV towers is very cost effective. The opposite holds true in rural areas. So the DVB-SH proposal originated with the Alcatel is now an ETSI standard which is published in August 2007. This ETSI standard is EN 302583. In the technical parameters, changes were made in the error protection. The time interleaver was extended to about 300 millisecond and the convolutional coding was replaced by turbo coding. Figure number 11. Look at figure number 11. On the direct and indirect path from the satellite or via repeaters on the TV towers, the technical parameters of DVB-SH are given now. So there are 8 parameters. One is derived from DVB-T or H. Technical parameters are derived from DVB-T or DVB-H. The second one is COFDM mode. Third one is QPSK. Fourth one is 16 QAM. Fifth one is FEC, that is a 3GPP2 turbo encoder, which is modified and extended. And next one is 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K modes. The seventh one is hierarchical modulation via 16 QAM with alpha is equal to 1 or 2 or 4. The eighth point, last point, is bandwidth of 8, 7, 6, 5 and 1.7 megahertz. On the direct path from the satellite to the terminal alone, the technical parameters can also be, look at figure number 11, derived from DVB-S2, first point. Second point is single carrier TDM mode. Third point is QPSK. Fourth point is 8 PSK. Sixth point is 16 APSK. Sixth point is FEC, that is 3GPP2 turbo encoder, modified and extended. And seventh point is bandwidth of 8765 and 1.7 megahertz. See, as in the DVB-H, the baseband signal used is the MPEG-2 transport stream with the time slicing, but generic streams are not excluded or considered as an option. In DVB-SH, two operating modes are provided. The type 1 is SH-ASFN. Type 1, SH-ASFN. The same frequency is used both for satellite and terrestrial path. The second operating mode, type 2, is SH-B or SH-AMFN. Different frequencies are used for satellite and terrestrial paths. So, with regard to the time interleaver depth, two receiver types have been defined in DVB-SH, a class 1 receiver and class 2 receiver. So, the class 1 receiver is 4 megabit interleaver memory only. Class 2 receiver is 512 megabit interleaver memory only. Okay, look at figure number 11. So, that is the end of DVB-H and DVB-SH. We will see about next streaming in the next session. Thank you.